Apple thinks we're fools. For years, they've sold us the same phone over and over, slightly tweaked, outrageously priced, and we keep buying. The iPhone 7 launched at $649. Just 3 years later, it jumped 54%. And that's nothing compared to the Mac Mini. So how did the company built on innovation turn into a trillion-dollar pricing machine? And why do we let them? There was a time, hard to believe now, when every Apple keynote felt like history being written in real time. When Steve Jobs stepped onto that stage in 2007 and pulled a sleek rectangle out of his pocket, people didn't just clap, they gasped. Because that wasn't just a new phone, it was the future.
A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Multi-touch screens, digital keyboards, pinch to zoom, full web browsing. It was like science fiction had walked into our pockets. You could check emails, stream music, surf the web, all from a single slab of glass. And it worked. Beautifully, elegantly, intuitively. This was peak Apple. A brand that didn't just make gadgets, it made magic. Its products felt like they had a soul. And behind it all was the cult of simplicity, clean design, minimal buttons, and an interface that just worked. Jobs didn't sell processors and specs. He sold ideas, the idea that tech should feel human. And for a while it did. Apple quickly became a symbol of innovation, not just in tech, but in culture. It wasn't just the iPhone. The MacBook revolutionized laptops. The iPod redefined music. Even their ads, black silhouettes dancing with white earbuds, became iconic. Apple stood for creativity, boldness, elegance. Owning an Apple product wasn't about specs. It was about identity. But something shifted. When was the last time an iPhone truly surprised you? A genuine leap. Not just a new color, a better camera, or a third lens stuck on the back. That magic, whatever it was, feels gone, replaced by polish, efficiency, price tags that keep climbing, even when the innovation doesn't. And this raises the uncomfortable question, what happened? Because now, instead of headlines about game-changing technology, we get headlines about pricing controversy. Instead of applause, we get memes. People once waited overnight outside Apple stores to be part of something new. Today, they do it more out of habit than excitement. It's not that Apple stopped making good products. Far from it. But the emotional reaction, the genuine awe, that sense of wow, isn't what it used to be. And you can feel it in the way people talk about new launches, in the yawns that follow every keynote, in the quiet realization that maybe Apple hasn't been leading the pack for a while now. So when did it stop being about ideas and start being about margins? Some say it happened the day Steve Jobs died. Others trace it back to when Apple crossed the $1 trillion mark. But no matter when the shift occurred, the symptoms are clear. The company that once inspired loyalty through creativity now extracts it through pricing, branding, and lock-in. And if you think that's harsh, just wait, because in the next part, we'll break down exactly how Apple went from being the pioneer of personal tech to the most expensive toll booth in Silicon Valley, from magic maker to price hiker, and how that transformation wasn't an accident. It was a strategy. For now, Apple's empire still stands, tall, shiny, and richer than most countries. Their devices dominate the premium market. Their stores still pull crowds, and their profit margins untouched. But here's the thing about empires. They rarely fall overnight. They erode, slowly, quietly, and the cracks are already showing. In countries like India, Apple barely registers, less than 2% market share. Not because people don't want iPhones, but because they simply can't afford them. And that's a problem Apple can't innovate away. In a global market, increasingly driven by affordability, versatility, and rapid innovation, Apple is starting to look slow, predictable, even out of touch. Meanwhile, competitors are catching up, and fast. Android manufacturers now offer features Apple hasn't even touched. Folding screens, periscope lenses, universal fast charging, USB-C everything, and all at half the price. These aren't knockoffs anymore. They're legitimate alternatives. And they're starting to eat into Apple's narrative. Even within its loyal user base, fatigue is creeping in. People are beginning to question the yearly upgrade cycle. They're noticing the minimal changes, the recycled designs, the lack of ports. They're asking why a laptop in 2025 still can't match the customization of a $900 PC from 5 years ago. And worse, they're talking about it. Online, loudly. The same echo chamber that once amplified Apple's greatness is now echoing its criticism. So what's next? Apple is betting big on services: iCloud, Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Pay. A whole world of subscriptions designed to keep you in the ecosystem, even if you don't buy the newest hardware. In theory, it's smart, but it also means something important. Even Apple knows the hardware game won't last forever. The iPhone can't keep climbing in price forever. So the company is shifting from product to platform, from what you buy to what you belong to. But there's a risk in that, because loyalty without innovation is a fragile thing, especially when people start realizing that their $1,300 MacBook has fewer ports than their last one, or that their $1,000 phone barely looks or feels different from the one they bought 3 years ago. Eventually, the illusion of magic can only stretch so far before it snaps. The future of Apple depends on a simple question. Can it reinvent itself again? Can it return to the boldness of Jobs-era thinking when think different actually meant something? Or will it keep coasting on loyalty, aesthetics, and pricing psychology until someone else, leaner, faster, more daring, takes the crown? Because here's the brutal truth. The longer you sell people the same product with a prettier box, the more you train them to expect less. And if Apple isn't careful, one day we'll all wake up and realize we weren't paying for innovation. We were just paying out of habit. At this point, you might be wondering, if Apple overcharges, limits repairs, removes features, and slows down old devices, why do we still buy their products? Why does Apple still dominate? The answer isn't in a processor or a product sheet. It's in something much deeper: status, identity, and social pressure. Apple isn't just a brand, it's a mirror, and a very expensive one. Let's start with something simple. The iPhone isn't just a phone, it's a social signal. In group chats, it determines who's in and who's the green. Because, let's be real, nobody wants to be that person. You know, the one who ruins the group thread with green bubbles, no reactions, and broken FaceTime links. It's irrational, but powerful. A kind of soft peer pressure that Apple never had to engineer, because we did it for them. iMessage and FaceTime have become cultural defaults. Especially in the US, they're not just features, they're infrastructure. Teens text through them, families FaceTime, businesses AirDrop. If you're the odd one out with an Android, you're not just switching phones, you're switching tribes. And that friction is exactly what keeps people in the ecosystem. Once you're inside, everything works together, seamlessly, effortlessly. Almost magically, your iPhone syncs with your MacBook, which syncs with your iPad, which talks to your AirPods, which unlocks your Apple Watch, which, you get the idea. This is what people call the Apple aura. It's not about specs. It's about how Apple makes you feel. Clean, organized, modern, put together. It's no coincidence that Apple stores look like high-end art galleries. Everything from the lighting to the uniforms to the silence. It's designed to feel premium. Because if it feels premium, you'll believe it's worth the price. Apple has mastered what luxury fashion brands figured out decades ago. The product doesn't need to be objectively better. It just needs to look, feel, and behave like it belongs to a higher class. It's the same reason someone buys a $300 pair of designer sneakers when a $60 pair works just fine. It's not about need, it's about status. And Apple knows this. It's why their ads don't show performance benchmarks. They show lifestyle, smiling creators, students in cafes, photographers in exotic places. Subtle messaging that says, this is what success looks like, this is what creativity uses, this is what you deserve. And we buy into it. Because part of us wants to believe that owning the tool will give us the life that comes with it. And to be fair, there's truth in it. Apple products do work well. The ecosystem is fluid. And for a lot of people, that's enough. But it's also true that we're often paying double for that experience. Not because it costs more to make, but because it costs more to belong. So the real question isn't, why do people keep buying Apple? It's, how long will this illusion last? Because in a world moving faster than ever, with new competitors, rising expectations, and smarter consumers, what happens when the status symbol starts to feel stale? So, Apple charges more. We get it. That's capitalism. But here's where it gets dark, because they don't just sell expensive products. They design them in ways that force you to keep spending. Subtle at first, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with durability. Older iPhones were built with sturdy aluminum backs. Drop them, and maybe you'd get a dent. But newer models? All glass, front and back. Elegant? Sure. Durable? Not even close. One accidental drop, and you're booking an appointment at the Genius Bar, which, ironically, is starting to feel like a trap. Because now you're looking at $300 to replace something as basic as a screen. That's not genius. It's just good business for them. And even getting that repair isn't simple. Apple wants full control. Their ecosystem is locked tighter than a vault. Try to fix your phone at a third-party repair shop. Suddenly, your warranty vanishes. Your device might not even work properly, and you definitely won't get a trade-in value later. Apple's message is loud and clear. If it's not fixed by us, it's broken. But wait, it gets worse. In 2017, Apple quietly admitted to slowing down older iPhones through software updates. Their official excuse? To preserve battery life. But the result? Your once snappy phone becomes sluggish. Apps take longer to open. Scrolling gets choppy. Notifications lag. You start thinking, maybe it's time for a new phone. And just like that, Apple gets another $1,000. It's planned obsolescence, disguised as battery management. And for a company that claims to put users first, that move shattered trust around the world. And then there's the war on ports. USB Type-A, gone. Headphone jack, history. Apple calls this progress. But really, it's a strategy. Every port they remove creates a new product they can sell you. Need to plug in a basic USB drive? Buy the dongle. Want to use your wired headphones? Buy the adapter. And the cycle continues. They take away the basics, then sell them back to you one overpriced piece at a time. And let's not forget software. iOS updates are tailored for the newest devices, not your 3-year-old phone. Some features don't even work unless you upgrade your hardware. And even if you don't want to update, Apple pushes them so aggressively it feels less like a choice and more like an ultimatum. Postponed too many times, and suddenly your apps start crashing. Coincidence? Probably not. The brilliance of Apple's strategy is that they've designed a walled garden, and once you're inside, it's almost impossible to leave. Your photos, messages, files, they all live on iCloud. Your AirPods only sync seamlessly with iPhones. Your Apple Watch won't pair with Android. Your iMessages turn green if you try to switch. Every feature, every product is another brick in the wall. And if you try to climb out, Apple makes it as inconvenient as humanly possible. But here's the twist. Despite all of this, people still love Apple. Still line up for the next iPhone. Still justify the prices. Why? Because it's not just about specs or software anymore. Apple has mastered something much more powerful than tech. They've mastered identity. At some point, Apple stopped trying to dazzle us and started charging us, quietly but aggressively. Year after year, the prices crept up, and no one seemed to notice. Or maybe we just didn't want to admit it. The iPhone 7 started at $649. 3 years later, Apple's flagship phone was over 50% more expensive. The Mac Mini, a 60% jump. And the message was clear. This wasn't about innovation anymore, it was about leverage. The clearest example of this shift came in 2019. Apple stood on stage and unveiled its new $5,000 Mac Pro display, meant for professionals, sure. But then came the punchline, the stand for the monitor not included. That, they said, would be an extra $999.
The Visa-mount adapter will be $199, and the Pro stand, $999. And like the Mac Pro, they'll all be available in the fall.
$1,000 for a metal stand. The room went dead silent. You could hear the collective gasp, even through the live stream.
$999. And like the Mac Pro,
The memes exploded instantly, but Apple didn't flinch. It never does. Because that's what happens when a company learns to sell you status instead of features. See, this is what people call the Apple tax. It's not a literal tax, of course. It's the premium you pay for a logo, for being in the club, for walking into a cafe and pulling out a MacBook that screams, "Yeah, I spent more than you." And Apple knows it. They've designed their pricing model around it. Want more storage on your MacBook? That's $400 more. Need a faster chip? $200. A little extra RAM? Another few hundred. It's not about component cost. It's about tiered pricing psychology. Create just enough frustration at the base level and gently push you toward the reasonable middle. And suddenly, you've spent $1,000 more without even blinking. But it doesn't stop there. Apple's genius isn't just in charging more, it's in removing things and then reselling them. Remember when they removed the headphone jack? That wasn't about innovation, it was about creating a new product category. No jack. Now you need AirPods, and they're fragile, easy to lose, and of course, expensive to replace. Same thing happened with the charging brick. One day, it's in the box, the next, gone. Now you buy it separately. And guess what? It costs more. Even basic accessories have been inflated into luxury items. A keyboard? $129. A mouse? $79. And if you want the pro versions of any of these, prepare to triple those prices. It's like being nickeled and dimed at a luxury hotel. You pay for the room, then get charged for Wi-Fi, breakfast, and even water in the minibar. Except in this case, the minibar is built into your laptop. This isn't about features anymore, it's about friction. Create small pain points, then sell you the solution. And the wildest part? We go along with it, willingly. We rationalize it. We tell ourselves it's worth it, because it just works, or it looks better. And maybe it does. But that doesn't change the fact that Apple's real innovation in recent years has been in pricing psychology, not product engineering. But that's only half the story, because if Apple just charged more, fine, that's business. But what if it also made sure your older products didn't last? What if it used its control over the ecosystem to lock you in, punish third-party repairs, and even slow down your phone on purpose? Let's just say the magic trick gets darker from here. So, what are we really buying when we choose Apple? A phone, a laptop, or a carefully crafted identity? Apple has mastered the art of making us feel like their products are different, even when they're not. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it was never just about the tech. Maybe it was about the spell, the design, the simplicity, the status, the story. But spells wear off, and with every missing port, every price hike, every slowed down update, the illusion gets harder to believe. Now it's your turn. Are you still buying Apple because it works best for you, or because it's what you've always bought? Let us know in the comments, because behind every shiny screen is a real choice. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to think different. Again. And if this made you see things a little differently, consider subscribing, not for the algorithm, but because we're just getting started.